All right, let's jump straight into the deep end and talk about what it really means to be a software developer in 2026. Because let's be honest, the AI revolution isn't some far off prediction anymore. It is here, right now, and it is changing absolutely everything. And that brings us to the big one, right? The question that's kind of lurking in the back of every single developer's mind. You just can't get away from the headlines, from all the hype. But here's the thing. When you actually dig into the data, when you see what developers are really saying, that simple story of AI is going to replace us just falls apart. What's actually happening is a fundamental shift in what it even means to be an engineer. It's really not about replacement. It's about evolution. Okay, so let's get into it by looking at the tools themselves. I mean, the software development toolkit of 2026 is just overflowing with these AI-powered assistants, and they're being woven into every single part of the workflow. I mean, just look at the major platform updates we saw late last year. It's not just about AI being bolted on anymore. It's baked deep into the core of tools like .NET 10, GitHub Copilot. It's way beyond simple code suggestions now. It's tackling huge jobs like overhauling entire legacy apps and generating complex test plans all on its own. And we're even seeing whole new categories of tools pop up, like the Microsoft Agent Framework, which lets you build AIs that can actually go out and do complex tasks for you, all connected to the real world through things like the MCP protocol. And this quote from Scott Hanselman at Microsoft, it just nails the entire vision behind all these tools. The end game isn't just a random collection of cool AI features. No, it's about building this single, seamless platform where AI is your intelligent partner at every single step of the way, from that first spark of an idea all the way to deployment. But, that's the grand vision. What actually happens when these incredibly powerful tools hit the day-to-day reality? The grind of shipping code on a deadline. What do developers really think about all this? Well, first off, the adoption rate is absolutely massive. The 2025 Stack Overflow survey showed a staggering 84% of developers are either using or planning to use AI tools. That is a huge jump from the year before. So it's pretty clear these things are becoming standard issue. But here is where it gets really interesting. This is the central tension. Even as everybody starts using them, the feeling about these tools is actually getting worse. Favorable sentiment has dropped from over 70% in past years down to just 60%. So what's going on? Why are so many developers using tools that apparently they like less and less? And that drop in sentiment, it really all comes down to one word: trust. According to that same survey, a massive 46% of developers actively distrust the accuracy of AI-generated code. Now compare that to the tiny 3%, just 3%, who say they highly trust it. And you know who's the most skeptical? It's the experienced devs, which makes sense. They're the ones who have to fix it when it all goes wrong. And this lack of trust has some really serious real-world consequences. Just let this sink in. The number one frustration from 2/3 of developers is getting code that's almost right but not quite. And that leads directly to the next problem. Nearly half of them find that debugging that slightly wrong AI code actually takes more time than just writing it themselves. And the result of all that? Well, when the stakes get high, developers just back away. A whopping 76% say there's no way they're using AI for critical stuff like deployment. And this trust gap becomes even more critical when we start looking at high-stakes areas like security and compliance, because in those fields, almost right can be an absolute disaster. And believe me, the stakes are incredibly high. A stunning 70% of all security problems come from old legacy code bases. That is a massive, often invisible attack surface, and companies are desperately turning to AI to help modernize these systems and patch holes before they get exploited. Now, to manage all this complexity, especially with open source software everywhere, we're seeing the rise of something called an SBOM, or a software bill of materials. The easiest way to think about it is like an ingredients list for your software. It catalogs every single piece, every dependency, so you can track security risks across the entire supply chain. And this is where we hit a fascinating paradox. On the one hand, you have individual developers who just don't trust AI for these high-stakes jobs. But on the other hand, you have huge enterprises and even government agencies starting to mandate the use of AI for things like automated security scanning and generating those SBOMs. They see it as the only way to manage risk at scale, and it's creating this massive collision between top-down requirements and bottom-up skepticism. So,
We've got these incredibly powerful new tools, a healthy dose of skepticism from the people who actually use them, and this intense pressure in really high stakes areas. What on earth does all of this mean for your career as a developer in 2026?
Well, for starters, the bar to get into the industry is getting higher. It used to be that companies expected to spend, 3 to 6 months training up junior hires. But now, with AI handling so much of the basic boilerplate stuff, there's just less patience for what one manager called handholding. Companies want developers who can make an impact right away, and that means you've got to know how to effectively use these AI tools from day one.
And this is exactly why knowing the right tool for the job is becoming such a critical skill. It's just not enough to know one language anymore. You might use Python for its incredible AI libraries when you're prototyping, but then switch over to JavaScript to get that same AI model running right in the user's browser. And when performance and safety are absolutely non-negotiable, we're talking cloud infrastructure, real-time systems, you're going to need the power of languages like Go, C++, and especially Rust.
So, the real takeaway here is the rise of what you might call the polyglot developer. The most valuable engineers moving forward aren't just a Python developer or a JavaScript developer. No, they are problem solvers who can pick and choose the right language and the right AI tools from a whole toolkit to build systems that are robust, efficient, and secure. Ultimately, the shift that we're seeing, it isn't about AI replacing developers, it's about AI elevating what a developer does. All the tedious, repetitive work is getting automated, and that frees up engineers to focus on the truly hard stuff: system design, architecture, security, and real creative problem solving. The era of just being a code writer is fading away. So the real question to leave you with is this: how are you going to make that leap and become an AI-powered problem solver?